Welcome to the Workology podcast, a podcast for the disruptive workplace leader. Join host Jessica Miller-Merrill, founder of Workology.com, as she sits down and gets to the bottom of trends, tools, and case studies for the business leader, HR, and recruiting professional who is tired of the status quo. Now here's Jessica with this episode of Workology.
It's our third installment of the Workology podcast series sponsored by my friends at Clear Company. I'm looking back at interviews with Scrum Master Reese Schmidt, Dr. Cynthia Ackrell, Dr. Nagib Prasad, and Linda Janak. Peter Drucker has a great quote that I really thought summed up this podcast series where we reflect and revisit on the past. He said, "Follow effective action with quiet reflection. From the quiet reflection will come even more effective action." Let's get started. Over the last year, I've found that many in HR are looking for new ways to improve processes and efficiencies, which led me to thinking about the Agile methodology. Over the last year, I've found that many in HR are looking for new ways to improve processes and efficiencies, which led me to the Agile methodology. Scrum Master Reese Schmidt shares about what Agile is and how it can help organizations adapt. She also explores about ways Agile can be applied in human resources and recruiting, not just for software and technical teams. Let's listen in.
I really wish that the word software didn't exist in the Agile manifesto, because it seems to pigeon us into this belief that Agile is something only engineering does or IT does. And honestly, I think that belief is the single most dangerous thing holding our organizations back. As I said earlier, Agile is all about being able to shift to increasing market demands or disruption. And if only a small part of your organization is nimble and the rest of it set into long analysis and planning cycles or strict hierarchical sign-off and permission policies and siloed communication structures, you can't really adjust. The entire organization needs to start embracing the values of individuals and interactions over processes and tools and responding to change over following a plan to succeed in today's rapidly evolving and disruptive market. I always fear for companies that tell me like, "Oh, this Agile thing, it's new," and or we're really just having a hard time embracing, and we need these long analysis cycles. And it's jokingly, but I always fear that Amazon better not turn their sights on their industry, because Amazon is our big disruptor. And maybe it's not Amazon, maybe it's two guys in a basement or a garage building something, but we live in a world where we can be so disrupted so quickly. Everybody's got an iPhone in their hands, and somebody can build an iPhone app that takes an entire industry and disrupts it.
Dr. Cynthia Ackrell walks us through dealing with stress in this next podcast snippet. She dives into neuroscientific research on stress, how it impacts us in life and work, and what we can do to help ourselves as well as our teams neutralize the effects of stress. You're going to love this interview.
So my fave topic, because I think when you start talking about the neuroscience, it becomes a safe discussion for everybody. This is science. Your body is wired to react to danger, and it's a very old system. In fact, amoeba have this system. When your body when your brain senses danger of any capacity, whether the room is too cold, the email was obnoxious, or there's a snake in front of you, it triggers this cascade of 1,400 chemical reactions to react to that. One of the first things it does is take blood away from your frontal lobe to send it to your legs so that you can run away from the danger. It's hardwired into you for that to happen. Well, that's unfortunate, because all of your executive functions, your ability to know your awareness, like you said, you don't know when you're starting to get OCD about something. You can't know because that's been hijacked. That awareness part of your brain just lost its blood supply from the stress. All of these reactions are very automatic and hardwired, and the number one priority for your brain. So you have to really start to work around that to get that executive function back. So you have to calm yourself first. And the cool part is you can use your body to do that. Just by slowing your breathing, you can start to downplay that sympathetic flight or fight system and upplay your parasympathetic rest and relax, recharge system, and get some of your frontal lobe back on board, the reboot that you need to deal with what the challenge in front of you. In losing this frontal lobe capacity, you lose your perspective, you lose your ability to make critical decisions, to emotionally regulate. This is when people make the mistakes. This is when people have the emotional outbursts that they really wish they hadn't had, is under duress because their brain is otherwise occupied with their safety.
Let's take a reset. This is Jessica Miller-Merrill, and you're listening to the Workology podcast. This is part 3 of our Best of Podcast series on Workology. You can connect with us on Twitter at Workology. A special thank you to our sponsor, Clear Company.
This podcast has been sponsored by Clear Company, a complete talent management platform that unifies recruiting, onboarding, performance management, and goal tracking into one award-winning solution. Visit clearcompany.com for product information.
Now let's get back to the last 2 Best of podcasts we'll be exploring on this episode. The hype around AI is pushing HR and recruiting leaders to places and resources that frankly just aren't accurate. I talked with Dr. Nagi Prasad. He shares the basics of what AI is and how it is currently being applied in human resources. This podcast is important, and he points to some really great resources in the transcript. I recommend that you check that out more as you begin thinking about artificial intelligence for human resources and recruitment.
Just about every company is talking about AI. Now, if you look past the substance of what companies have, of course, different companies have different levels of substance to what they're saying. It's a good thing that they're paying attention to AI. AI is going to be a foundational transformation of software, how we build software, enterprise software, any kind of consumer software, any kind of software. So all of us giving good mind share to AI is a good thing because it's such a foundational thing. Why would we not, right? But at the same time, of course, there is a lot of hype. If you're a CEO of a public company now, if you don't have an AI strategy, you'll probably be fired, right? So whether you have one or not, you're talking about it, right? So it's a foundational thing. More specifically to HR, I saw lots of talk about AI within sourcing companies. Some of them doing very interesting work like Swoop Talent, sourcing candidates, which is a real problem. In a lot of, it's especially the high value employees, it's a real problem in terms of sourcing candidates, candidate evaluation, different kinds of intranet information location, employee engagement, intelligent tutoring, and of course, employee service. Right? How do you actually address any of employees' questions? A lot of them tend to be pretty routine questions. Hey, how much did I pay on my W-2 form? That kinds of things. So those are all the interesting applications that people are talking about. Now, it's a little bit harder to figure out how much substance there is behind at least some of the claims. And there are also other places where you call AI something that's not really fits the definition of a typical AI aspect.
Career paths are a term that is often misused and misunderstood in the workplace. Talent Guard CEO Linda Janak talks us through what career paths are and if boredom at work is the real reason people are leaving their jobs. In this podcast, we explore what's behind boredom and what employees can do to create career paths for themselves, as well as keeping their employees engaged. Take a listen. I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that a 2018 report by Korn Ferry listed boredom as the number one reason that employees leave in an organization. I do not find this surprising, but I think it's really interesting. And I think that in my mind, career paths can help keep that boredom at bay and help those employees be able to find different areas and different skills, and they have a sort of a clear line of sight to that ultimate goal, whether it's in your organization or somewhere else. Are you seeing that in the work that you're doing with companies and clients?
I think that boredom comment is one that's very interesting, and it's kind of a new word that I've heard, at least in the industry. Typically, when I'm hearing something, it's around lack of skill development, lack of opportunity for advancement, and I could see how that fits in. If you're not really feeling like you're engaged in your job or you're engaged in your role, you will start to become bored. So I think that is something that organizations should absolutely look for. And when we're thinking about building out a career path, it's not just a journey that an employee can look at and say, well, I want to go from this role and then the next role and the next role. The whole goal of career pathing is to close the gap in learning and development. And when we think about building out these career paths, they're based on skills and experiences and qualifications and preferences. So for example, if we say that a product manager needs the ability to research in depth about trends, one of the things that we do is we tie learning to that competency and then the various indicators if we have them, if there are different levels in people's jobs. So when an employee is looking at gaps, if I want to go from a product manager 1 to a product manager 2, they can look at the skill of competitive research and see, do I have the minimum required for the role? If yes, great. Are there opportunities for me to learn to get better? That's when we serve up that curated learning plan. And if there is a gap, then what is the entire learning plan that I can engage in to close that gap, so that when an opportunity for that product manager 2 comes available and a vacancy exposes itself in the system, that I am able to have that level of transparency of what makes an excellent product marketing 2 person. So I do believe that if you are going to do career pathing, you have to also be able to serve up various types of learning resources, whether it's a link to an organization's LMS for a course. It could be a PDF. It could be a standard operating procedure. It could be the ability to serve up a mentor or a coach, or all of those different curated learning to close those gaps.
I love how diverse our topic base is here at Workology, and I'm really looking forward to talking to more experts and industry innovators in the new year. Feel free to connect with me if you're interested in being a guest on the podcast or have a suggestion on a future topic you'd like us to dive into on Workology Podcast. Thank you and have a great day.
Hi, my name is Riley Merrill. I am Jessica Merrill's daughter. I am selling Girl Scout cookies. Go to Workology.com/Girl Scouts to order your cookies. For every 10 boxes you buy online from me, Workology will give 1 box to Operation Cookie Drop. Thank you for supporting Girl Scouts.